Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. I finally got Food Chain Magnate to the table. And I want to talk to you about it. I want to share some of my thoughts, my impressions. I have owned this game for over 2 years. In fact, one of the very first unboxings we ever did on the channel was me opening up a copy of Food Chain Magnate. Innocent little old me, brand new board gamer me, thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to play this game. I saw the promise of this game. I saw people talking about this game. It looks amazing. The aesthetics are on point. Everything about it. And then, for a total of 2 years, I didn't touch. I didn't play. I didn't engage with Food Chain Magnate at all. Primarily because it's got a lot of rules. It's a spotter game. It's intimidating. It is one of those games that takes a long time to play, a decent amount of time to table. Without the right mechanics and systems in place, it can be a giant table hog, and getting everyone around a table to sit down and play this, it can take a little bit of work. But I finally did. I got a short game in with Alex Radcliffe and one of our other friends here in Cleveland, Board Game Co., and he wanted to go through a short game so I would get the systems up and running. I'd understand the nature of the game so that we can continue to play long games down the road. And, yeah, I'm thrilled about it. I absolutely adore and love Food Chain Magnate. It is so elegant and simple and beautiful and unforgiving in its application, and we'll get into all that. But I also do still have some concerns, I think, some things I'm curious about, some stuff I want to mix in and explore, and I still don't know if it's going to be a game I actually get off the shelf very often. I should. I'd really like to, but the question will be, how accessible is it going to be, even once I've known it, because the unforgiving nature of the card system, the way that things build in chain, and you start building out your tableau or your employee network, those things, those specialist icons, those milestones that you can hit throughout the course of the game, the program that you're designing, it doesn't have room for error. And so if you're playing with brand new players, you run the risk of their first game being miserable. I mean, I do have to comment, I do have to mention that the first game I had, to Alex's chagrin, resulted in him being crushed, which was very entertaining. A few tactical errors on his part and a timing issue where he was going to score everything exactly after the game ended. Made for some really interesting play. But let's get into all of that very soon. But let's start here with a little bit of flavor text, which I assume has got to be in the front cover here, because I feel like a lot of people don't take the time to read flavor text. And here on Quackalope, we have a fond appreciation of, well, flavor text, of story, of what you're doing. Food Chain Magnate. Lemonade? They want lemonade? What is the world coming to? I want commercials for burgers running on every channel every 15 minutes. We're the home of the original burger, not a hippie health haven. And place a billboard next to that new house on the corner. I want them craving beer every second they sit on their porch's new garden. The new management trainee trembles in front of the CEO and tries to politely point out that, how do you mean we don't have enough staff? The HR director reports to you. Hire more people. Train them. But whatever you do, don't pay them any real wages. I didn't go into business to become poor. And fire that discount manager. She is only costing me money. From now on, we'll sell gourmet burgers. Same crap, double the price. Get my marketing director in here. Food Chain Magnate is a heavy strategy game about building a fast food chain. The focus on building your company using card-driven human resources management system. Players compete on a variable city map through purchasing, marketing, and sales, and on a job market for key staff members. The game can be played by 2 to 5 serious gamers in 2 to 4 hours. And that's what you're doing. That is the nature of this game. You are running a food chain or a fast food chain. You're building up the employee structure, the people who are cooking the food, providing the food, advertising the food, and doing its very best to get it into the mouth and gullets of the, well, bland citizens across the board state. The people that are completely convinced by any marketing tactic that you're able to get in front of their eyes ahead of others that they want burgers more than they want anything in this life, and they'll go out of their way and spend whatever price they need to spend to get them into their mouth holes. It's sort of a reflection on, that system or that way the world has built out. It's like a little journal about human nature in a lot of ways. Throughout the course of the game, you're doing your very best to build a hand of cards that allow you to kind of program your next sequence of turns. You're going to start as the CEO with a structure allowing you to build 3 cards underneath it in a bit of a chain. At the top of every turn, you'll bring all your cards back into your hand, and then you'll play them down, deciding what actions you want to take that turn. Whether it's marketing, hiring and training new employees, producing resources like gathering gathering drinks and soft drinks from across the city locations here, or producing food items like burgers and pizza. You'll also decide if you want to invest in marketing strategies or campaigns, or simply fulfill the demand that your other opponents have directed the town to be desiring. This is going to take place on this bit of an abstract map here. So you'll program your turns, then you'll take or walk through those turn sequences. And I didn't get all the cards out here, but there is a whole turn sequence and structure that allows you to build down a variety of different strategic paths. That's one of the most fascinating and cool things about Food Chain Magnate. All the different pathways you can go, and if you're the first to do a whole collection of things on the board, like first cart operator played, first pizza produced, first person to throw out food, you'll get benefits in association with being the first to act. That's going to be such a core and essential part of the game. You're always deciding when and where do you want to make a move, what resources are you willing to let go, what milestones are you willing to miss in order to build and perfect the food chain of your dreams here in the environment that you've been given. This is a game that has no catch-up mechanic, has no forgiveness across the board. If you make a strategic error, you are stuck with it, you live with it, you continue, you potentially lose money and drive yourself into the ground going bankrupt. It is a win and loss game. It doesn't really matter where the money is. At the end of the day, you might be 500 points behind the other players, and that's simply the nature of how it plays. You have to look at it as an arbitrary or a binary. I won or I lost. My strategy worked or it didn't. I had the best food chain, or I got crushed and it fell apart and I want to play again. This map here is going to be a really interesting battleground. Every house is going to be influenced by the various resources that you can get. You'll be able to play things like billboards or hire planes to fly across the sky, or establish mailboxes where, if they're connected to or in adjacency to some of these buildings, they're going to influence based on what they're marketing, what you decided to have them market. They're going to influence the houses to want those items. And then your job as a restaurant, which I don't have the restaurant tokens out here, but your job as a restaurant, you're going to go ahead and at the start of the game spawn a restaurant with its doorway on one of these streets, and you start competing to fulfill the demand from across the city, starting of course with the houses that are closest to you and battling with the farther districts, because people want to make a negotiation between price, how cheap is your item, and how far away it is. So you could lower your prices, driving them into the ground in an attempt to get people who are all the way across the board to go to you instead of your competitor, because to them it seems like the best possible value. So that's the structure and flow of the game. You're going to be doing your very best to build out your pathway, your chain of employees, the actions that you're taking every turn, and those are going to result in a tactical area control and battleground here. It's strategic resource management. It is heavy. I think it's kind of area control. It's like heavy area control and understanding what pathways and where people are going and how people might be able to cut your pathway off. And again, these milestones, these are going to be a crux of the game. Understanding when the game times itself, when the appropriate time for things to happen, what milestones are going to be given up or taken early on in the game, and when you need to hit certain key moments or points to get your engine up and running, and understanding that there's a strong chance you'll fall apart. So, why did it take me so long to get Food Chain Magnate to the table? It's a simple answer. It's a heavy game, it's an unforgiving game, and there's not a lot of people I have around me that are ready to play it. And Food Chain Magnate's going to be one of those games where if you have it in your collection, you really want to play it with people who have played it with you before. And if you haven't, or you don't have any of those, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to get it to the table, because it plays quick and easy once you know it. But if you don't know it, you have a lot of learning to do. In fact, the solo game, or the demo game, or the intro game that I have played, my first experience with it, it took about an hour and a half, and for me, that was a full teaching experience, along with reviewing the rulebook. And everyone, I think everyone, needs to have one of those demo games before they actually play a full game. And even then, the odds are you'll make tactical errors and strategic missteps, and you will fall apart. And the people that have the most experience with Food Chain Magnate will oftentimes clinch the victory until you've had enough practice sessions to really get it up and running and be tactically and strategically knowledgeable about the game and the systems and the way you're playing, because it's a game that times itself in a way. It is elegant in how it performs, but it's a game that has moments. You understand, if you've played before, what's going to happen when. And knowing that forethought, that knowledge is so powerful. And for instance, one of the things that I learned when I played it for the very first time is going to be the way that marketing actually works. When you set down marketing on a tile, you're actually not influencing that house immediately. You're going to cycle for an entire turn, and so I could set down marketing here trying to produce burgers so that I'm ready to sell immediately, but I've got a whole action before that happens. So my friends and my opponents can react to me and react to the new marketing strategy in the city before the people go shopping. There's a little bit of a delay there, and that creates a really nice push and pull. This give where you're doing your very best to get people to come get your burgers, and then someone down the street freaking undercuts you, and you didn't make anything. All that marketing, all that effort, all that resource spent, and someone swooped in and took your profit away. So, my initial thoughts. What do I like about Food Chain Magnate? Well, first off, Alex has this resource tray, and I have to say, having something like this that slots into the top of your deck and allows you to get the cards in here in a way that is easily accessible, that means you don't have to have a whole stack out in front of the board, that is so essential. If you own a copy of Food Chain Magnate, find a company that produces this type of tray. You can probably find some really good indie producers on Etsy, that's where I normally go, and order one. It is probably one of the most essential quality of life upgrades I've found in a board game, period. In fact, while I'm talking about that, I should probably do like a top 10 quality of life improvement or best improvement in board games, because that is heavily on the list. And I got some Kingdom Death stuff that would be beneficial as well. That is going to make this game a game that you can actually play. From that point on, I love the programming. I love the action selection, the way that you draw the cards back up into your hand every turn to make a straight decision around how you want to take your next sequence. Do you leave a slot open to move a little bit faster in the turn order? Do you decide to produce all the burgers you need for the next 3 turns right now, placing all your burger cooks? Or do you go heavy on a trainee strategy so you're slower to begin, but when you get to end game or late game, you start pumping the gas and really, really investing and involving in high-end, high-play cards. This game also has a really nice economy. There's a give-take between hiring new employees and having new people on staff and the risk that you're making when you do that. There's always the chance you're going to run out of resources before you can afford to. But it's worth the gamble. Sometimes, multiple times, you're going to have to lose money. You're going to have to hire people. You're going to have to expand it. It costs money to make money. So do it. Get out there. But make sure you're selling and you're closing the deal before it's too late. Because if you don't, like I said, it's a game that doesn't forgive you for falling apart. And honestly, that's another thing that I really love about it. I know it's a thing that people hit on, people are going to be critical of and concerned about, but I like that this game does not give me permission to think that the game did anything for me. If I failed, I failed. And I don't want that for every game I play, but it is really nice to have a few games on the shelf that you know you can pull out, and you know for a fact every single decision I made was mine. There was no luck, there was no randomness, there was no give in the actions. It was me head to head in an abstract chess match type of fashion. Reminds me, honestly, of the weight and complexity of a game called Space Empires, one of my favorite of all time, that has the same essence, a 4X game that has no forgiveness, period. Every decision you make, from your economy to your ships to your strategic deployment and movement, everything is just your choice. And so, whatever resolves, whatever's happening, you've made that decision. Now, I think Space Empires actually has some dice and randomness in it as well, which means it's not quite a fair comparison. Still, whatever the case, the feeling of those two games, the feeling that I made the tactical choices, that's what I'm hitting on. That's what matches up. Some things that I didn't like or that I'm concerned about. Honestly, not a lot. I found the aesthetic of the board a little bland. I like this. I don't love the marketing, like the giant mailbox that gets placed next to houses. I wish there was a better way to aesthetically communicate what these things are. I understand it's artsy and abstract and sort of modern, but it's just not my preferred approach. This game without the insert is an absolute nightmare to set up and get out, so I'm going to have to get an insert, and I'd really love to play with a catch-up mechanic or the catch-up system, which adds in new foods, new milestones, new employee structures and hierarchies, but I'm not going to be able to do that for, well, I'm not going to be able to do that for some time. The other things that I'm concerned about is I don't know when I'm going to get to the table again. I really want to play this again, but it really has struck a nerve in our game group. There's about half of us that love us and half of us that refuse to play it. And that makes it a game that is hard to get to the table. Maybe we'll do a two-player with Alex. I'm not sure how it functions as a two-player, though, because I think maybe there's not enough tactical choices happening on the board, and if one person falls behind, it can become a really mean game very easily. Outside of that, there's almost no complaints I have with Food Chain Magnate. It is a 5 out of 5. I mean, nearly, if not a perfect game in almost all regards. I could not imagine things that I would change that go beyond just aesthetic and accessible. But that's kind of what makes the game as charming and as beloved as it is. Yeah, so an absolutely mind-blowing game. I had to get on camera and talk about it. I was excited that I finally actually played it. Again, that unboxing video from 2 years ago with baby Quackalope. I cannot believe it's taken me this long to finally get it to the table. But I am very glad I did. So, with that being said, let me know your thoughts. What do you think of Food Chain Magnate? Have you had the chance to play it yourself? Are you looking forward to playing it in the future? Or did this video just convince you to go pick it up? Because it really is quite lovely. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. I'll see you next time. Thank you.